Well, the day has finally arrived. The Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars' big return to the silver screen after 7 years. Review embargo is gone. And now the reviews are flooding the internet. Folks, we're here to tell you, The Mandalorian and Grogu opened Kathleen Kennedy's final film to a rotten score. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, damas y caballeros, welcome yet again to the channel that delivers up the truth with a capital T on a platter of chatter, hot, fresh, and ready to go every single day for you. We never sleep around here. Sleep? What is that? Folks, you click the like button. Let's dive in right now. The review embargo lifted earlier today, and it is hovering at this point between rotten and fresh, but it's a mess with The Mandalorian and Grogu, and now the box office just might be suffering. Projections crashing. We'll explain right now. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and now the wait is over, folks. We know how bad The Mandalorian is and how low Grogu can go. We'll refreshify it. It's down to 60 now. It's been lower. It's likely to fall. And The Mandalorian and Grogu is headed for rotten territory. In fact, when it opened up to the reviews, once the embargo lifted, immediately it sat at 58%. Now this is a surprise, honestly. Many people out there thought that the Hollywood intelligentsia would come to the rescue and save the day. However, when a movie opens this low out of a major franchise, the chances are it's going to go even farther, further, beyond, and down. And the frowns, they're not going away anytime soon, because even those who would be most likely to come to the rescue of poor little baby Yoda are saying, nope, not on my watch, not my credibility. I'm not going down with this ship anymore. Forbes, Paul Tassi, who sometimes gets into a tussle with me. We love you, Paul. Okay, let's be friends. All right, BFFs forever. Paul is probably one of those people who would like to give a lift to Star Wars, to Kathleen Kennedy's final project, to Dave Filoni's first big film, and yet he's reporting on it. The Mandalorian and Grogu Rotten Tomatoes review score is one of Star Wars' worst. I don't know. I guess because it's fluid at this point, he had to qualify it as one of. I can't think of a Star Wars film that's worse than this. Is Clone Wars ranked lower? Lauren, do you remember what Clone Wars is?
I haven't looked at the scores in some time, so I can't tell you for sure.
Let's see what Paul says.
It would have to be against that or Solo, you know.
Okay, well, Paul's got them listed out. Let's see here. Social media impressions for The Mandalorian and Grogu went up a few days ago, and now, just a few days ahead of its May 22nd release, which was one of our major signs this was going to be bad, the embargo being held until 2 days before, the reviews have hit Rotten Tomatoes. Like the social media reviews, the majority so far are positive. However, as it stands, The Mandalorian and Grogu has the second worst Rotten Tomato score a Star Wars movie has gotten in the Disney Star Wars era, at a barely fresh 65%, and you all know it's lower now. So let's see how it stacks up. A New Hope, 94% critic score. Good. That's where that should be. Empire Strikes Back, 93%. Should be higher. Force Awakens, 93%. You guys are shills. The Last Jedi, 91%. That's the hill you died on. Rogue One, 84%. Sounds right. Return of the Jedi, 83%. Probably should be higher than that. Revenge of the Sith, 79%. Should be higher than that. Solo, 69%. And here's where we get into the low scores. All right. Now, with this, it's lower than Solo, as we said. However, it was listed at the time of publication higher than Attack of the Clones. That has changed, obviously, because if we go back to the modern, as of right now, it's at 60, and we think that's going to drop. So it's at 60. That means it's below Attack of the Clones. It is still higher than The Phantom Menace by 6 percentage points, and it is higher than Rise of Skywalker. I don't know how it could go lower than Rise of Skywalker. I mean, it could, but that would be mathematically unfair, because Rise of Skywalker is just awful and offensive even. So I don't think it can go lower than Rise of Skywalker, but we're now looking at 7 years, and the big return to Star Wars is likely to be under Attack of the Clones and will be in competition with The Phantom Menace, I believe, as we get ready for the opening day. All right, so that's Paul Tassi at Forbes. That's what he has to say about it. Folks, let's talk about the reviews and just how bad they are, because it's not just the score that's bad. The headlines and the reviews themselves, because what will happen so often is Hollywood, when they're given a blockbuster inside a major franchise, they'll give a very meh review, and at the end, you're like, boy, they're going to hammer this, and they'll be like, 3 stars out of 5. And you go, what the, how did, but it's because they want to save the score, because they're trying to save the industry. In this case, That is not what is happening. Den of Geek, for example, puts this out. Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu review. This is not the way. David Crow says Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu might be the first summer tentpole blockbuster that feels like a small screen rerun.
Yee.
The Independent says it this way. The Mandalorian and Grogu review. Stick a fork in Star Wars. It's done. We'll go through some more in a minute, but I want to get the panel in on this. This is shocking to me. Lauren, we'll start with you because you follow this. You had expectations for this. And it seems like the critics who are so often sort of in bed with Disney, they're not holding back right now.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I've heard, then I expect that it's going to be about what they say. It's going to be essentially a TV show on the big screen. There's not going to be anything earth-shattering about it. There's not going to be any major cameos. It's not going to be that important, and that's because they have essentially stripped out anything that would have referenced anything else, because they wanted it to be accessible for an audience who had never watched the show. I think they have drawn the conclusion that they tried to marvelize the Star Wars universe by having all of this ancillary content that you would have to watch, and they've determined that the audiences don't like doing all of that homework, so now they're trying to reset by saying, hey, here's a thing that you can come and watch and not know anything about Star Wars, and it'll be fine. I think they played this movie as safe as they possibly could, and weirdly, for once, that's the thing that they should not have been doing. That said, the one little caveat that I would put here is that these are the critic scores, and you've seen what happened with Michael. I don't trust the critic scores no matter what. That said,
that's a good point.
I don't think that the movie is going to be that great. I think
that's
going to be.
That's a
the
good
only
point
thing
about
I'm going to
Michael,
say
though.
on that is this is definitely corporate product, though. This is not like Michael, where the media doesn't get to control it. This is not independent cinema. This is Disney. Like, if anybody has a great relationship because they have all the stuff that people want, it's Disney. So that's where I'm like, there's almost no one in the world that is invulnerable from the idea that Disney could give them more access if they just played ball. With this one, I'm really surprised on this movie with a gay Latino lead in produced by Kathleen Kennedy, that they're not giving this one a pass.
Well, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, yes, but Kathleen's no longer there. And there is a part of me that feels like they definitely want to sacrifice The Mandalorian on their altar because it was the one thing that showed Kathleen up. I think they've been trying to kill it ever since, and they have succeeded. I think when they got rid of Jedha, that did away with a lot of the goodwill. They sabotaged the Book of Boba Fett. They sabotaged Mando Season 3. That's why this was the one place where they absolutely had to course correct, and they didn't. This is why I'm so mad at John right now. I'm not willing to give him as much leeway, I think, as others are. I don't care that he's under contract. This was his baby. He created this character. He created this story, and he didn't stand up for it. He played ball with the higher ups. Maybe that was good for him politically, but it was bad for the franchise overall. And I think that's going to be a real problem.
So Tessa Smith out of mamasgeeky.com says this: underwhelmed is an understatement. The Mandalorian and Grogu feels like a mashed up TV arc that belonged on Disney Plus rather than IMAX. So this is painful, folks. You can go check it out. By the way, Grace Randolph, she loves it. I'm sure Scott Mendelson will love it. So we'll see, but not going well so far. Carol, your thoughts on Star Wars being gone for 7 years, and this is the way it returns. This franchise is already on life support. I don't know that it survives this. I mean, I think this sucks all the oxygen out of Lucasfilm.
I think it's the end of a chapter right now, for sure. I mean, the whole series started off really strong. It had a big impact. I mean, this is the way it took off like overnight. Everybody loved it. And the first season was honestly a masterclass and, doing a space Western. And I found the end of the second season to actually be really satisfying. And if KK had just stayed in her office and not touched anything, I think it would have been fine. I was telling my husband the other day that if I had been allowed to have any say in this, which I don't, because I don't know anybody at Disney, and nobody at Disney even knows who I am. But what I would have done is after season 2, we would have had Mandalorian go off and do Mandalorian things. And then in this movie, then that's when we could have brought Grogu back, because then everybody's like, oh, Grogu's back. Let's go see what him and the Mandalorian are up to, right? But they oversaturated the influence of Grogu to the point where people were like, I don't care anymore. Like,
yeah, if they had been separated for that 3rd season, this movie would be Luke Skywalker, who's been training Grogu, trying to rescue him from whatever the bad guys are at this point. Maybe Thrawn, who knows? And the Mandalorian finds out and says, I've got to help save him. And you've got this, now we've got a movie. Now we've got something that can make $1 billion as is. I think the projections are wrong. I think with this kind of a score, especially if it gets into rotten territory, I think we're probably looking at a film that is going to struggle to get to the $400 million worldwide. And that's horrific for Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so sad, because it's like I was part of like this fandom, like, my father is a Jedi and I'm a Sith, right? And so we would fight each other. And then I converted over to Mandalorian because I got won over. But it's, when you think about the social economics that these IPs can make and how it draws us together and lets us like kind of like identify and lose ourselves in these worlds, it's really something amazing. And just to see a business and bad directions come in and destroy it because they think they know what's better, when they're not really paying attention to what the values of their fan base are, is just it's a double bogey, right? Like we talked about with Bob.
Double bogey Bob. Tabitha, the first weekend, though, I will not be surprised if it does well. I still think there are enough Star Wars fans out there to make this have a respectable Memorial Day weekend. But I think anything beyond that, I think the fall off could be significant. And the way this is being described to us is it's a very, very juvenile film, that this is like for 5-year-olds. And I just don't know how they came up with this. I don't know how this was the way that they chose to go.
Well, I mean, I've said this before, is that this franchise, for whatever reason, they decided to give it an identity crisis. It had, like Kara said in the beginning, it had a strong goal. It had a story. It had characters that were wonderful. It had started to have that old world, if you will, Star Wars vibe, where you had people that not a lot of everyone knew who they were. They all of a sudden became fan favorites, like with Cara Dune and everything like this. And it's like, oh, we have brand new characters set in the Star Wars world. And then they just decided to go with Grogu because, from what I understand, this was one of the most outperforming toys on the market. And I know that companies are out there to make money. Of course, that makes sense. But it just didn't seem like a good business plan to just carry on, as we always say, that this is pretty much like a masculine or a guy franchise, which for whatever reason, women do tend to gravitate to, because we all love a good adventure, or we love a good story. But when you focus on cute, you can have cute in a guy movie, but when that's your main focus, you're going to lose pretty much everybody. Because I've said this before, where I was also, I mean, you can see I've got some Grogus. I was on the Grogu train as well, and I still think he's cute, but now I'm over it because there's no character development. If they would have made the Mando movie where Grogu was older, he was doing something. I think I was here last time when I was like, he's just an incompetent little puppet. He's freaking 50 years old. He's suffered trauma from Order 66. He can use the Force. He can flip things around, but he can't figure out how to push a button on a spacecraft.
Right.
Why would I be interested in a character that has no development?
Right. He's baby Groot with magical powers.
Well,
and we never go out past that.
Groot can at least say one thing. Grogu can't say anything. He is a prop. He is an object. He has no characterization. And the idea that there's a scene in Book of Boba Fett, which it's still bizarre that it's in Book of Boba Fett, where Grogu has to decide between being evil and being good, or being a Mandalorian or being a Jedi. And this is like asking a Hello Kitty toy, like having a scene in front of a Hello Kitty plush, with a Hello Kitty plush has to decide whether or not it's going to the dark side. Sure, they've got some puppeteering they can do. At least Gizmo could talk a little bit. Gizmo could be funny. This is so strange to me. Like,
I had never thought of that, Jonas. You're exactly right. The analog to this, the character that Grogu is Gizmo, but he's a speechless Gizmo with telekinesis.
Right, and
that's the character.
Joe Dante has essentially said the same thing, by the way.
I never realized that.
Yes, he said. Well, he likes to use the word ripoff quite frequently. It's if you look at the proportions, Grogu and
it's Gizmo. I never realized it. You're right.
And I'm going to be flat out. Gizmo's cuter. Has smaller eyes, but he's cuter and funnier. This is Kathleen Kennedy has said as much. That thing is never going to talk. I laughed out loud when I heard Jon Favreau say that he's got more character development for Grogu. There's no character development. It is like it's like saying that the Elmo puppet sitting on your floor that has never been puppeteered is going to have character development. It is an object. It is a toy they are carrying around.
Right. And folks, as we pay attention to the reviews, we're at what number do we have here? 82 reviews. This will get into the hundreds. So this number is going to move likely down as people realize that we're not defending it. I also want to say too, Tabitha, that was an awesome point that I had not considered before. You know, the mistake that Star Wars had made was it had subverted the male franchise because it was a masculine franchise, and that's okay. But what it had done is it had said, okay, well, we're going to turn this into a girl boss franchise. And the answer now, when that failed, rather than going back to what Star Wars was, is to say, well, what if we made Muppet Baby, not Muppet Babies, but Muppet Baby Star Wars? It's like, no, that's still not it. This is not a 5-year-old's franchise either. What are you doing?
Well, and then the irony is that one of the key to success, I think, with the first Mandalorian season and even with 2 is that, like I said, the irony is that you had a girl boss in that show. I think everybody can agree that Cara Dune wasn't just some damsel in distress that needed to be rescued. She didn't need the Mandalorian per se, but there was this dynamic in the character arc, the development of Cara Dune, where she was this tough as nails, gritty, I've seen things, I don't need no man kind of attitude. It wasn't necessarily that she thought men were scum, but she just didn't want a handout, right? But then you see the softness, the development in the character where she didn't do babies, she didn't do kids. But then every time Grogu got handed to her, it softened her a little bit. It opened her heart. She blossomed a little bit and tapped into that feminine energy, which is okay. And so the fact that they decided to go full on girl boss with the rest of Star Wars, it's like they just don't understand how men and women work. They don't seem to understand who their audience is. They just thought, wow, Mandalorian did really well. What if we made a movie? But it's like they don't understand their characters at all. And you don't need Cara Dune in this film for that mission to be accomplished. We all can go on our rabbit trails of what we wish could have happened, but you don't need her to make the story better. And you know, but it's just like I said, the irony of the fact that they had female empowerment, but it had like the healthy version of it, if you will. And then they just decided, you know what would be great? Stuffed animals.
Yeah, plushies. It's hard to make a Sarlacc into a plushie.
I mean, it's not even that though, because like Star Wars always had strong female leaders in it. I mean, Padme, you know, Princess Leia, like everything, right? Yeah. And I mean, you know, everybody doesn't like to hear the slave Leia thing, but I mean, she was like in a skimpy outfit, and she's like, "Nah, I'm gonna strangle this guy and get out of it," right? She didn't need any help with that. And so it's just the audacity that they think that these things that they're really shoving into the audience faces was never there. Like I know plenty of women that were inspired by the female leadership of old Star Wars, not current Star Wars. They mostly don't like the new females right now. They find them to be like obnoxious, loud, and talky, and I can't blame them for that. And even the writers for all the stuff that's become legend, right? Like they wrote some amazing female characters in their works, and it's just like, I was always like, part of me was really hoping some of those books would become movies, but it's like they just legended all of it. And then of course, like they come out on the stage and be like, don't you know how hard it is to write a story for a universe with no lore? I'm like, shut up. Don't want to hear it.
We got to correct Caro on that. They're not legends. They're canon. Okay.
Oh,
they are canon.
They're canon now.
Canon forever. Not
I don't
canon
care what
fodder.
Disney says.
Hey, culture.
Reality.
Culture audiences are about to say, shut up, and not show up for the Memorial Day weekend. That's what this is looking like. These are the kinds of review scores that can cause that to happen. I don't think we're going to have the Michael effect where people say, screw you critics. I think this is one where this may have an impact. What say you? What's the likely box office result that we're seeing play out over the next few days?
Well, I think this is going to disappoint. everything or all indications are pointing towards an even worse opening than the projections said, as low as 80 million. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, this is domestic numbers. I anticipate that that the reviews and word of mouth are not going to help going forward. I'm going to be one of those reviews on Friday. I'm seeing this actually earlier than anticipated on Thursday. An earlier slot opened up for me to see it, so I'll be seeing it much earlier in the day, which means members on my channel might see it, Thursday night. We'll see. But it's interesting that as I look at the future of Star Wars, I don't have hope. There's no new hope here. And you know what? That's sad.
Not even Ryan Gosling.
No.
He's a beautiful man, Culture. He's a beautiful man.
I think that it could be something new. I think Star Wars could be reborn in that film, but it's going to take a lot of jumping through hoops and a lot less fetish from somebody that they hired to.
Don't you ever use the word fetish for Ken Solo? Don't you do it?
No. I was talking about Ahsoka lover. Wolfman.
Leslie.
No, the Wolfman. The guy they put in charge.
Lauren.
Lauren knows who I'm talking about.
You know what? Here, Lauren, translate for the man as he speaks.
Dave Filoni. He's talking about Dave Filoni, the president of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, the Wolfman tool bag. Anyway, I'm just not a fan of his. He's done absolutely nothing positive with Star Wars. He's an animation guy. He has no business in live action. He doesn't have a perception of reality, physics, or anything else related to believability that is required even in science fiction, even in something with space wizards. Having Ahsoka jump from spaceship to spaceship doing a somersault or cartwheel or whatever bologna sausage that was ridiculous.
Bologna sausage, please.
It is Filoni sausage. And look, I mean, he's got a poor reputation, and he produces things of little value. I feel like Favreau's creation. I'm with Tabitha here. I feel like Favreau's creation was reduced substantially by the brand of Lucasfilm more so than it was by anything that he did as far as taking action. And I believe that Grogu was going to be there for a limited time. But once they removed Gina Carano, they didn't have a choice. There was only one marketable thing in Star Wars, and it was that stupid green puppet. And, they've kept him infantilized. Is that the right word, ladies? Am I using that correctly? So I don't feel like there's been character growth with Grogu. There certainly hasn't been with Mandalorian. And I feel like, the book of Boba Fett was probably the most offensive piece of material you could have invested in for Star Wars. So this has been a long, slow death that unfortunately everybody that was a fan had to watch. And it's culminating in stupidity, like having an AT-AT walk on a cliff that it has no business being on in this trailer. So thank you for that. Perfect timing.
I'm going to point out the fallacy in your logic once again.
Oh, hey, that'll be fun, Lauren. But
hang on, let me get comfortable.
Terrain vehicles culture.
Star Wars
attack.
If you are going to be picking on that scene, pick on the fact that it has legs in the first place. The ATTE was a better piece of technology when the Empire moved to a giant-legged beast of a thing. That's the thing you ought to be attacking.
Where are the scooter bikes? That would have made a lot more sense. They're more nimbile, right?
Honestly,
even the two-legged.
it should have been light steps, but whatever.
I frankly like the designs of Mech Warriors better. Anyway, guys, Lauren, I'm going to give you the final word on all of this because you are the Star Wars guy, and I'm so sorry, Culture. But Lauren, I have this feeling. I wonder if when we get to the review time, you're going to come on the channel and say, guys, I'm going to take a different point on this. I actually like the movie. What do you think are the chances that happens?
Very low. I would love to love the movie, but everything that I'm hearing tells me I'm going to hate it, which really upsets me. I think the final word is going to be poodoo.
Star Wars, baby, he won't say one word. Often as we get ready to wrap these up, folks, you'll hear us say, keep learning, keep growing, keep having fun. And the reason we do it is because we appreciate you. It's true, we do. And we want you to have a good time. Thank you for giving us the great time of spending time with you. Folks, on the way out the door, consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it and stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell, and drop a comment down below because you matter. Your thoughts matter. Who cares what the legacy corporate deadbeat media tells you? You really are important. And we're a testament to that. We wouldn't be here without folks just like you. And since we've said it, we'll say it once more. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.